Welcome back. It's the winter solstice today, which means the shortest day and the longest night of the year, which is pretty depressing. Our neighborhood, it's actually really quite nicely lit with a lot of pretty and colorful lights. I don't think you can see anything out the window, but I did think that maybe I would light the Hanukkah behind me in the windowsill, and then you can enjoy a bit extra flickering candlelight behind me if you're actually watching instead of just listening. All right, there's the shamash. Don't go out on me. And it is the fourth night of Hanukkah. Oh, come on. There we go. Come on, stand up, buddy. Good, shamash. There you go. Sorry. Tonight is the final installment of the fourth Animorphs book, the Animorphs number 4, The Message. I don't think that this will be a very long video because we didn't actually leave an awful lot left at the end of this one. I also couldn't remember, I don't think when we started this one that I, gave you the close-up of the cover and the tagline that sometimes you have to change a little more than your mind, or showed you the interior, so I was obsessed with this at age 8. So I don't imagine you can really see if I do the flip book. Oops. Yeah, it's very hard. Never mind. As a brief recap, in the fourth book, the Animorphs have been receiving some form of distress signal that seems to be coming from beneath the sea. So they have acquired dolphin morphs so that they can go to investigate the source of the beacon. There are also controllers swarming around. So while they're diving to the seafloor and they've discovered a dome habitat biome, like a park under the sea, and but they know that there are also controllers on ships and helicopters and things circling the area. They found an airlock and have regained their human forms and entered the dome, and then something has stunned them unconscious. And that's where we left off. Chapter 18. I opened my eyes. I was staring straight up. I was on my back. Above me, I could see the ocean all around. High overhead, fish swam by, sparkling. Higher still, I could see the bright barrier between sea and sky, but it was very far away. I rolled my head to the side. Jake was beside me, still unconscious. There was blue grass under my head. I looked the other way. Ah! Do not move. I stunned you to see what you are, but if you move, I will destroy you. He stood on 4 delicate hooves, looking at first glance like a pale blue and tan deer or antelope. But he had a strong upper body, like a mythical centaur, with two small arms and many fingered hands. His face was almost triangular, built around two huge almond-shaped eyes. There was a small vertical slit where his nose should have been, and nothing where his mouth should have been. From atop his head rose twin horns, only they weren't horns. They each ended in an eye and turned this way and that, independent of his main eyes. He seemed gentle, quizzical, almost delicate, until you noticed the tail. The tail was like a scorpion's. It was thick, powerful, and ended in a wicked scythe blade that literally glittered along its razor-sharp edges. I knew what he was. There's no mistaking an Andalite when you see one. And there's no question about what he was holding in his hand either. It looked a lot like a Yerk Dracon beam. He was pointing it at me. The others were waking up all around me. What the— Oh, Marco said. Please tell me that's a real Andalite and not Visser 3. Suddenly, without warning, the Andalite's tail arched forward. The blade stopped inches from Marco's face. Visser 3? Do not speak that name, the Andalite thought spoke. Okay, Marco said slowly. Whatever you want. We are friends, I said. I don't know you, the Andalite said. But he withdrew his tail and Marco started breathing again. You called me, I said. We've come to help you. Called? You heard my call? He fixed all four of his eyes on me. What are you? Human, a person of Earth. I have seen images of your kind. My call was to my cousins. How did you hear it? I don't know, I admitted. I heard it in my dreams. So did a friend of mine. We guessed it was an Andalite. We wanted to help. What do you know of Andalites? My people are not known to humans. You do not travel the stars. You know only your own planet. My elder cousins have taught me this. We knew one Andalite. We were with him when he was killed. The Andalite narrowed his main eyes. Who was this Andalite you say was killed? I searched my memory for his name. He had told us, but it was a strange, long name. I can't remember all of his name, but part of it was Prince Elfangor. The Andalite jerked as if he'd been hit. His entire body seemed to quiver. His deadly tail arched high in the air. Prince Elfangor? No one could kill Elfangor. He's the greatest warrior ever. No one could kill him. Someone did, Jake said. We were there. Who? Who do you claim killed Elfangor? The one whose name you don't want us to speak, I said softly. The Andalite held his head high, but his tail sagged and dragged down to the grass. He lowered his weapon. He was my brother. Did he die well? In battle? Jake answered. He died protecting us and defying the Yerks to the end. At the very last moment, he struck with every weapon he had. The Andalite closed his main eyes for a brief moment. My brother was a great warrior. His cousins loved him. His enemies feared him. No more can be said of any Andalite warrior. I was surprised by what Jake said next. I've lost a brother too. He's one of them, a controller. The Andalite opened his eyes. And you, human? Do you serve the Yerks or fight them? I fight them. We fight them. With what weapons? Do you have powerful weapons? Only the weapon your brother gave us, I said. The power to morph. Elfangor gave you that? It is never done. He seemed disturbed. The situation would have to have been very bad for him to give you the morphing capability. The situation is worse than you think, Marco said. The Yerks seem to know you're here. Some piece of Andalite wreckage washed up on the shore. They're up on the surface right now. For the first time, the Andalite seemed uncertain. What is your plan? To get you out of here and hide you, I said. You came only to rescue me. This is true? Yes. He smiled with his eyes, just as Prince Elfangor had done. You will be tired after this last morph. You will need to rest. A little while, yes, I agreed. What is this? Rachel asked. This dome, I mean, it's like a park or something? This is the main part of an Andalite dome ship. It is where we live. Pardon me? This is the main part of an Andalite dome ship. It is where we live. The engines and the war bridge are in a long section that sticks out from the bottom, with this dome perched on top. Like a mushroom or an umbrella, I suggested. The Andalite just looked blank. Never mind, I said. During the great battle in orbit over your planet, the dome was separated from the rest of the ship. Why? The Andalite dug at the grass with his forehoof. I was too young for battle, by the laws of our people. Besides, the rest of the ship maneuvers better without the dome. You're a kid? I mean, like a young person? Marco asked. Yes. Are you the only one left? The only Andalite here? Yes, I am alone. When the blade ship appeared unexpectedly, they caught us off guard. I saw the main. When the blade ship appeared unexpectedly, they caught us off guard. I saw the main section burn. Dracon beams damaged the orbital stabilization of the stone. It fell. It splashed into the ocean and sank to the bottom. I have been here for these many weeks, hoping that my cousins would come for me, hoping that some survived. Finally, I risked sending out a mirror wave call. It works by. He stopped and looked embarrassed. I am not supposed to explain Andalite technology. My brother will. He would have been angry with me. Just you survived, I said sadly. Just me, he said. No princes, no warriors. I felt a sinking in the pit of my stomach. I think the others felt the same way. I guess we'd all kind of been hoping that this Andalite would be like the prince, a leader, someone who could take over the battle, someone who would know more than we did. We're young too, I said. Too young to fight, according to the laws of our people. But still you fight. We feel like we don't have a choice. Look, we don't even know your name. This is Jake, Rachel, Marco, and I'm Cassie. There's one more of us. His name is Tobias. I am Aximili Escaru Istil. We all just kind of stared. Ax, Marco said. Pleased to meet you. Who is your prince? One by one, we looked at Jake. Oh, give me a break, Jake said. I'm not anybody's prince. But the Andalite had stepped forward. He bowed his head and lowered his tail. I will fight for you, Prince Jake, until I can return to my cousins. Do you mind telling the air purifier to simmer down, even though it's totally my fault that I lit candles in our apartment, so the air purifier is kicking up a fuss. Chapter 19. This is a Durishul tree, Axe said. He pointed to one of the asparagus-like spears that grew straight and tall. He was showing us around while we recuperated from all the morphing. And we call that an Enos Airmarf. What? I didn't see what he was pointing at. That. That, the way the look. Sorry. Speaking like Axe is difficult. And we call that an Enos Airmarf. What? I didn't see what he was pointing at. That, the way the lake curves forward into the grass, framed by the Durishul trees. You have a word for something like that? I asked. Oh, pardon me. There are names for all the many ways the water and sky and field interact, he explained, and for the way the suns and the moons hang in the sky of our planet and cast their lights in one way or another on the different aspects of the world. Rachel caught my eye and silently mouthed the words, "He's cute." Then she winked. I wasn't sure I agreed. Andalites are halfway between looking cute and looking scary. You can get past the weird stalk eyes and the fact that they don't have mouths, at least not that you can see. But that scorpion like tail is far from cute. It reminded me of the sharks. You all live here? Marco wondered. I mean, just out in the open? Out on the grass? Where else would we live? Here we have space to run. There must always be space to run. Hmm. This is like actually being on another planet, Jake marveled. This is all like part of the Andalite world. Yes, we take our home with us into space. It angers the Yerks, he added grimly. Why do they care what you take into space? Marco asked. It is a part of everything they hate and would destroy if they could. The Yerks would take our world and make it as barren as their own, as they will to your planet unless they are stopped. I grabbed Axe's arm. What are you saying? What do you mean about making the planet barren? He turned his big eyes on me. The usual Yerk pattern. Once a planet is under their control, they alter it to suit their own desires. They will leave enough plant and animal species to keep they will leave enough plant and animal species to keep the host bodies fed, humans in the case of Earth, and the rest they eliminate. He said it like it was obvious, like it was just something I should know. He started to move on, but I held onto his arm tightly. Wait. I don't think I understand you. What do you mean they eliminate species? They eliminate them. They will make Earth as much like the Yerk homeworld as possible. They will destroy most of the plants and all of the animal species except those they eat. I let go of his arm. I rocked back and grabbed at the air for balance. I felt like I'd been hit by a car. No, I whispered. That can't be. You're just saying that because you don't like Yerks. The others were staring. No one was moving. Axe looked at us. His eyes narrowed. Don't you know? Don't you know whom you are fighting? We know they take over people's minds, Rachel said weakly. Yes, and that is one of their great crimes. But the Yerks are more than that. Yerks are killers of worlds, murderers of all life, hated and feared throughout the galaxy. They are a plague that spreads from world to world, leaving nothing but desolation and slavery and misery in their wake. I felt cold, small and weak and cold and afraid. I looked around, but even the inviting, lush Andalite landscape did nothing to warm me. Up in the sky and all around us, I felt the immense pressure of the ocean waiting to rush in. There are only three races left in all the There are only three races left in all the known galaxy that still fight the Yerks, Axe said proudly, and only the Andalites can stop them. How long until your people return to Earth? I asked. He hesitated. One of your years, maybe two. 2 years? Jake looked stricken. I went to his side and slipped my arm through his. 5 kids against an enemy that has destroyed half the galaxy? 5 of us? Axe gave that a smile, the one he did with his eyes. 6, my prince, he said. 6! Well then, Marco said with grim sarcasm. With 6, it shouldn't be any problem. How did these Yerks get this far? Rachel demanded. How did this happen? If you Andalites are so tough, why didn't you stop them a long time ago? How did a bunch of slugs who live in dirty ponds manage to become so powerful? Axe looked at her. I am forbidden to tell certain things. Rachel's eyes narrowed dangerously. You're telling us all of planet Earth may be scheduled for destruction, and we are the only thing standing in the way, and you are going to keep secrets. I don't think so. The Andalite looked angry, but no angrier than Rachel. Look, I'm feeling ready to morph again, I said, interrupting the tension. Rachel was angry because she was afraid. What Axe had told us had shaken her. It had shaken all of us. I guess we felt enough pressure already. We didn't really need to think that every living thing on the planet was depending on us. It was kind of a lot to handle. Cassie's right, Jake said. It's time. Let's get going before it's too late. I followed him, along with the others, as we crossed alien land, heading for an environment just as alien, the ocean. I wished I could forget what Axe told us. I wished I could stop seeing the pictures in my head of an Earth without birds and trees, an Earth where the ocean was empty and dead. Don't you know whom you are fighting? The Andalite had asked. Yes, now I knew. Chapter 20. Hey, I have a stupid question, Marco said. What? Jake asked. Marco jerked his thumb toward the Andalite, Axe. How do we get him out of here? Jake looked blank. Axe, I don't suppose you can swim. Swim really well, I mean. We're a long, long way from land. I would not swim in this body. I would morph a sea creature. Like what? Marco asked bluntly. We have to travel far and fast. I have acquired a creature from this ocean. It was a large creature who swam close one day. I stunned him and acquired him. I thought he would be useful if I was to escape. What kind of animal? What did he... I stopped suddenly. I'd felt something. A shadow. I looked up, through the air of the dome, through the clear dome itself, and up through the water. It was on the surface. A cigar-shaped shadow riding the surface of the sea. That's a ship, I said. Up there. I think it stopped. Let's get out of here, now, Jake snapped. We ran for the hatch. Bing, 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 bing. The sound echoed through the dome. Sonar, Marco hissed. How do you know? Rachel asked. Didn't you ever see The Hunt for Red October? Great movie. Now let's leave. They found us. Bing, 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 bing. We crammed inside the small hatch enclosure, the four of us and Axe. Morph, Jake yelled. I had already started. I could feel the dolphin features emerging. My friends were beginning to mutate. Water rushed into the chamber, swirling up around our legs. Axe was changing too. It almost broke my concentration, watching him. In their normal forms, Andalites are strange enough. When they morph, it is totally bizarre. Instead of 2 legs shriveling and disappearing, it was 4. And then there were the stalk eyes and the tail, which lost its scythe blade but split into a new kind of tail. With a long, raked vertical blade and a shorter, lower blade. The water swept up to my neck, but by that point I was more dolphin than human. Boom! The explosion shuddered through the dome. I felt like my eardrums would explode. Yerks, Axe said. He said the word into our heads the way his brother had, with hatred and rage so deep it was impossible to comprehend it. Boom! A second explosion. Suddenly, the exterior door opened and we swam out in a rush. 4 dolphins and 1 shark. I'd been distracted by the explosions. Axe had morphed a shark. Oh, good choice. Oh, good choice, Axe, Marco said. You morphed a shark? Is it wrong? The Andalite wondered. Your species and ours are mortal enemies. Oh, sorry. That's Cassie. Your species and ours, they're mortal enemies, I explained. Oh, I have a lot to learn about Earth. Here's the first lesson. Let's get out of here, Marco screamed. I soared up through the water, angling toward the distant surface, but as I rose, I looked behind me. There were two jagged holes in the dome. Water was gushing in like Niagara Falls. As I watched, hmm, as I watched, a third dark cylinder was falling slowly from the surface. Even I had seen enough submarine movies to know that it was a depth charge. What hosts have these yerks used? Ax demanded urgently. Hosts? You mean bodies? Controllers? They use Hork-Bajir and humans, I answered. Hork-Bajir do not swim, Ax said. We may be safe. The Yerks know little about deep waters. They have no oceans on their world, only shallow pools. Good, Jake said. All they've had here are Hork-Bajir and Taxon. Sorry, all they've had here are the Hork-Bajir. And some Taxon, of course. Taxon? Yes, is that a problem? We were nearing the surface now, just a dozen feet from the bright barrier of sea and sky. Just then, a larger, darker shadow swept over us. A shadow that was dark inside of dark. A shadow that touched your soul. It skimmed just above the surface of the water. It was shaped like a long battle axe. Twin semicircular blades at the back, It was shaped like a long battle axe, with twin semicircular blades at the back, a long diamond-headed point at the front. The blade ship of Visser 3. Something was falling from it as it passed over us. There were a dozen splashes. I rolled over to get a better look. What I saw made my flesh crawl. Taxon, in the water, coming toward us. Those nasty worms can swim? Marco yelled. But the answer was obvious. The taxons, 10-foot-long centipedes bristling with dozens of pairs of sharp needle legs, were racing after us, and they were very fast in the water. Very fast. From this angle, we couldn't see the several red jelly eyes, but we could see the circular mouth at the top of each vile body. I had seen Taxon straining to catch bits of Prince Elfangar as Visser 3 devoured him. I had seen Taxon, on order from Visser 3, devour one of their own. Tell me, Ax said. I have the feeling that this body I am in might be able to fight. Is this true? I grinned inwardly. Yes, Ax. Sharks can fight. Then, Prince Jake, shall we deal with these Taxon scum? Don't call me Prince, Jake said, and the answer is yes. Let's go kick some Taxon butt. Chapter 21. There were a dozen Taxon in the water. 5 of us, and 5 of us. Swimming in a straight line, the Taxon were faster, but, as we soon discovered, we were more maneuverable. Pick a target, Jake said tersely. I focused on one of the big worms, but I had to force myself into the fight. This was not a shark, and the dolphin's instinctive dislike of sharks was not there to prod me. I had to find the will to fight in my own human mind. It's not such an easy thing. I had fought the Yerks to preserve human freedom. Now I fought to help the entire world. Still, fighting doesn't come naturally to me. And yet, I knew what I had to do. The Yerks would show no mercy. If the Taxons won, we would be killed, or worse. I powered toward one of the Taxon as he powered toward me. We were like 2 trains running on the same track, head to head. At the last possible second, with the gaping red mouth of the Taxon just a foot away, I zoomed sideways, arched my back, and rammed the Taxon's side. I expected it to be like the shark, hard, tough, unyielding. It was not. It was like hitting a soggy paper bag with a sledgehammer. The taxon burst like a dropped watermelon. I wanted to throw up. I beat the water with my tail and recoiled from the horrible scene I had created. All around me, the battle raged. Dolphin against taxon, and Axis shark against taxon. Scientists believe that sharks are one of the oldest species of animals still in existence. Nature built them as perfect predators, perfect killing machines, and nature hasn't had to revise or update them much. They were built right the first time. Dolphins are very different. Scientists say that millions of years ago, dolphins were land animals. Sea mammals not very different from humans and other mammals. They evolved their way back into the ocean. Part of that evolution included learning to cope with predators, with killer whales and sharks. I don't know what sea the taxon race evolved in. I don't know what natural predators they faced there, but they were not ready for this ocean. They were not ready to go one on one with the masters of Earth's deep seas. They were no match for a dolphin. Sorry, they were no match for a shark or a dolphin. Okay, let's get out of here, Jake ordered. They've had enough. Not so tough, are they? Rachel asked, trying to sound tough herself, but she sounded shaky to me. I shot to the surface and filled my lungs with warm evening air. The sun was dropping down toward the horizon. Two ships were close by and steaming in our direction. But far worse was the blade ship, which hovered now just 100 yards up in the air. We can't waste any more time, Marco said. We can't waste any more time, Marco said. The plan was to head back for one of those little channel islands, unmorph, rest, and then take the rest of the distance. But even the island is almost 2 hours away at top speed. We have to make a run for it. We'll have to make a run for it, or we'll have to choose between being trapped in morph or drowning. And that's not a great choice. You're right, Marco, Jake said. Top speed for the nearest island. How do you tell the time? Axe asked. Sometimes we can carry a watch. Sometimes, like now, we just have to guess and hope for the best. Oh, with your permission, I will keep track of the time. You have a watch? No, but I have the ability to keep track of time, Axe said. Good enough, Marco said. How much time left? We have been in morph for approximately 30% of safe time. 30%? I tried to think. Math was never my best subject, and it's hard to be mathematical when you've just come from a battle and are scared half to death. That would be about 36 minutes, which means we have an hour and 24 minutes left. Boom! I heard a huge concussion behind me, like someone had dropped a big truck into the water. What was that? Marco wondered. Something hit the water, I said. Something big. Whoom, whoom, whoom. Okay, now what is that? Rachel asked. I rose to the surface to breathe and look around. The two surface ships were still closing in, but they were not very fast, and they were not gaining on us. The blade ship had disappeared. I scanned the sky in all directions, but I couldn't see it. Does anyone see the blade ship? I asked. No, but that doesn't mean it isn't still nearby, Jake said. It may have recloaked. Whoomp, whoomp, whoomp. What is that? Whatever it is, it's getting closer. Suddenly, I remembered that I was not limited to my usual human senses. I fired off a rapid series of echolocating clicks. The picture that came back was startling. It hit something in the water. Big, huge. The size of a whale, but it's not moving like a whale. Jake, Marco, and Rachel all echolocated. It's after us, whatever it is, Rachel said. It's big, it's fast, and it is after us, Marco agreed. Woomph, woomph, woomph. I rose to breathe again and looked back. At just that moment, I saw, far behind me, a huge, dark red, almost purple hump above the water. It seemed to be covered with hundreds of small fish tails, all beating frantically. I went under. Axe? There's something back there, and I don't think it's from Earth. I described it to him, at least what I had seen of it. Margaret, Axe said. Margaret? What does that mean? Or Margaret? A Margaret is a beast that A Margaret is a beast that lives in the oceans of one of our own Andalite moons. To think of that filthy yerk scum on our own moon, acquiring our animals. Axe? Look, what is a Margaret? I asked him. It is a very large creature that swims by shooting water out of 3 large chambers. It makes a sound, whoomp, whoomp, whoomp. A sound like that? Marco asked. Yes, Axe said. I guess so. I did not recognize it. I have only heard it once, and that was in school, and I wasn't paying attention. It almost made me laugh. The image of an Andalite classroom where Andalite students zoned out on the lessons just like we did. But it really wasn't a good time for laughing. Woomph, woomph, woomph. But this is no true Margaret, Axe said. No, Jake agreed. Then you know who and what is chasing us? Axe seemed surprised. You understand that this is Visser 3 in Morph? We've met before, Rachel said tersely. You have fought Visser 3, and you still live? That definitely surprised the Andalite. I honor you. Yes, well, thanks, Marco said dryly. Sorry. Yes, well, thanks, Marco said dryly. But I'd trade the honor for a good outboard engine so I could outrun that evil creep. Woomph, woomph, woomph. Chapter 22. The creature Visser 3 had become did not tire. We did. I felt like I had been swimming forever. Half an hour into the chase, I was exhausted. We had been powering through the water at panic speed, fighting every current, fighting the terrible urge to rest as our tails weakened, fighting the growing hunger. Woomph, woomph, woomph. The Margaret never tired. It never weakened. It gained on us a foot at a time, bit by bit. I could see it now. A huge purple and red mottled bag that undulated and oozed through the water. It was propelled by the 3 huge water sacs, firing one after another. Between those loud bursts, the hundreds of tiny tails that covered its entire surface thrashed and kept up momentum. Woomph, woomph, woomph. Then he spoke. We had all heard that silent voice in our heads before. It was like hearing the most terrible curses. It was pure malice and hatred poured directly into our brains. I am coming for you, brave Andalite warriors, Visser 3 sneered. I am coming for you. That voice churned my insides. I felt my own hatred flaring up to match his. The images Axe had painted, an earth brown and empty and filled with nothing but the slaves of the Yerks. I had lived my entire life without feeling hatred. It is a sickening feeling. It burns, and sometimes you think it's a fire that will never go out. I am coming for you. You will be mine. Shall I make you controllers, or shall I simply eat you? The time for me to decide draws near. You weaken. Your time runs short. Woomph, woomph, woomph. We had all been exposed to Visser 3. Axe had not. He seemed to shudder, even in his shark body. The dead shark eyes showed no emotion, but his swimming became erratic. Axe, I said to him. He did not answer. Axe, we've heard his voice before. We've heard his threats, and we're still alive. He will kill us, Axe said. He will kill us. He killed Elfangor. Axe, hang in there. Don't answer him. Don't think about him. Just swim. But Axe's fear was catching, and he was right. We didn't. And he was right. We didn't have enough time to make it to land without being trapped in our dolphin bodies. And we would never escape him anyway. I glanced back. He was only 5 body lengths away. I demanded still more from my burning muscles, but there was nothing more to ask. This is the end, Cassie, I told myself. This is the end. I felt the terrible hatred surge in me again, but I didn't want to end my life that way. But I didn't want to end my life that way. I would not die with hatred in my heart. That would be one victory I could deny Visser 3. I let my mind drift, even as my shattered body struggled to go on. I felt my mind floating back, to the barn, to all the animals there, to my father, my mother, to Jake. I remembered good things. Riding high on the thermals with Tobias and the others with wings spread wide. Good days. Sitting at my grandmother's feet as she told me the story of our family, of all the generations who had lived on and worked on the farm. And then a more recent memory surfaced. The whale. I remembered his huge, gentle silence filling my mind. I could even hear his song. Wait, I could hear his song. That wasn't memory. I was hearing his plaintive, haunting song, reverberating through the water. He was not far away. I opened my dolphin mind and let my human consciousness slip away. I let go. I invited the dolphin mind, the mind that loved to play and loved to fight and loved the feeling of soaring out of the water, right up into the air like a bird, to surface in my head. I fired echolocating bursts. I fired echolocating bursts, 1,000 quick clicks compressed into a few seconds. And more than that, I cried for help. It was foolish. It was ridiculous. But I cried out in a silent plea, like a child with a nightmare calling for her mother. The monster is after me. The destroyer, the evil one. Help me. We have used 80% of our time, Axe managed to say. 24 minutes left, Marco gasped. It doesn't matter. I'm done for, Rachel admitted. I can't keep going, and he's too close. It's time to turn and fight. Woomph, woomph, woomph. We cannot possibly win, Axe said. We know, Jake said. But if I have to lose, I would rather lose fighting together than let him catch us one by one. That is a very Andalite thing to say, Axe said. We have a lot in common. I wish it had ended differently. On the count of 3, Jake said. 1, 2, let's go. We stopped. We turned to face the Marge route. Jake, I said. I wanted to tell you. Yeah, me too, Cassie, he said. Me too. Woomph, woomph, woomph. The red and purple behemoth rushed at us. I shook with terror, but I was too tired to swim away. Help me, I cried one last time, but I knew there was no one to help. And then I let it all go, and I said goodbye. Chapter 23. I've made up my mind what to do with you, Visser 3 said. After this long chase, I am really quite hungry. He rushed at us. We rushed at him. Something dark came hurtling up from the ocean floor. Something dark and long and bigger even than the Marge route. Vroom. Visser 3 shuddered and stopped dead in the water. A second dark shape, as fast as the first. Vroom. The great ones, I whispered. It's the whales! Marco yelled. There were 5 of them in the water. The 2 big males who had struck first had heads like sledgehammers. Sperm whales, 60 feet long, 65 tons, the weight of 50 cars. They had dived deep and come tearing up at awesome velocity to slam into the creature from another world's ocean. The Margaret was big. The Margaret was strong. But nothing living can survive for long, being slammed by creatures weighing 130,000 pounds. Then the whale, my whale, because that's how I thought of him, began to lash the Margaret with his tail. Hammer blows. Hits that could have knocked walls down. Again and again, as 2 smaller females joined in, and the 2 sperm whales circled back for another attack. Arrgh! Visser 3's cries of pain and fury echoed in my brain. He's retreating, Jake crowed. He's running, Rachel said. Ha ha! I don't think Visser 3 likes whales very much, Marco yelled. I don't think he likes them at all. The whales chased him for a while, but they let him go in the end. Whales are not very good at killing. They don't really have much of a talent for hating or destroying. My whale, the big humpback, returned in a few minutes and rested in the water beside me. I wanted to thank him, but as I said, whales don't think in human words or human thoughts. Still, I tried anyway. Thanks, big guy. People who argue about how smart whales are or whether they are as smart as humans kind of miss the point. Whales will never read books or build rocket ships or do algebra. In all those areas, humans are smarter. Humans are the great brain. Sorry. In all those areas, humans are smarter, the great brains of planet Earth. But it isn't necessary to believe whales are as smart as humans to believe that they are great. They don't have to know the words to sing songs. They don't have to be anything but what they are to be magnificent. And even though I don't really know what a soul is, I know this. If humans have them, then so do whales. I wanted to thank him for responding to my call for help, but I had a strange feeling as he opened his great heart to the dolphin mind that was my own. I had a strange feeling as he opened his great heart to the dolphin mind that was my own, that he hadn't just come in response to me. I had the feeling, and that's all it was, a feeling, that in some way the sea itself was what had called to him to respond to the presence of an abomination. Of course, I never told that to Jake or to any of the others. They would have laughed. At least, Marco would have laughed. Morph time is almost up, Axe said. I think if we morph, the whale will carry us until we are ready to morph again, I said. So we morphed back to our human bodies. An axe morphed to his Andalite body, and we crawled up onto the whale's huge back. I fell asleep. I know that sounds pretty incredible, but I did. I was exhausted. Physically, emotionally, in every way you can be tired, I was tired. When I woke up, it was sunset. We were near shore. I could see the beach, and just a little farther down the shore, the mouth of the river. We were wet, of course, covered with splashing water and the spray from the whale's blowhole. It was a little cold, especially now that the sun was going down. But then again, I wasn't Visser 3's lunch, so I wasn't going to complain. Jake was sitting cross-legged on the whale's back, smiling at me. Someday, huh? He said. I smiled. Yeah, we did it. We saved the Endolite, and we got out alive. Barely, I said. You know something? You were right. You trusted your feelings, and we followed you, and we're all safe. I nodded. Yes, I guess so. Only, as Marco would say, let's not do this again anytime soon, okay? Jake smiled a slow smile. It's fun being a dolphin though, isn't it? I know you were worried about it. Thinking maybe it wasn't right and all. I shook my head slowly. I'm still not sure it's right, but I guess we don't have much of a choice. The Yerks started this fight, not us. And after what Axe said, I I guess it's not just about one species, human beings. It's about all the animals. It's about all of the earth. Jake nodded. I think, sorry, I think if you could ask the dolphins, they would say it's all right to use them, since what you're trying to do is save them. Nah, they would just think that this was all a big game. They would never understand. We both laughed. Even if they could talk, Even if they could talk, the dolphins would never really understand what we were so upset about. We knew that better than anyone. I guess that's true, Jake said. But we do understand. He met my gaze. We we do understand what's at stake, and we'll do whatever we have to do to win. I knew what he was trying to tell me. I knew what he was trying to tell me. We'd used the dolphins to save them. We'd used other animals to save them too. And that made it okay. Chapter 24. We morphed once more into our dolphin bodies and swam down the river to the place where we had entered the water. We beached ourselves in shallow water and returned to our human bodies. It feels good to be human again, Jake said. Marco said, Oh, Jake, you are never exactly human to begin with. I guess it was funny, but we were all just too tired to laugh. We dug our clothes and shoes out of their hiding place. I pulled jeans and a sweatshirt on over my wet morphine suit. I shoved muddy feet into my boots. Strange, Axe said, watching us very closely. Strange. What is the meaning of the things you place on your bodies? It's clothing, Rachel explained. Why do you wear it? Does it protect you from the environment? Yes, that plus the fact that people get very upset if you walk around naked, Marco answered. There was a fluttering overhead. And one of the shadowed branches dipped with a sudden weight. Is that you, Tobias? I asked. Yes, you found an Andalite. Yes, Tobias? Meet Axe. That's his nickname, anyway. Axe, meet Tobias. Tobias is one of us. Sort of, anyway, Tobias said dryly. I liked this morph so much, I moved in permanently. The Andalite was shocked. You were trapped? Yes. Axe turned his eyes on me, then looked from each one of us to the next. He seemed very solemn. You have paid a price for the gift. Sorry. You have paid a price for the gift of my brother, Alfangor. Prince Alfangor was your brother? Tobias demanded. His hawk eyes glittered. I was with him at the end. This is all fine, Jake interrupted, but we have to get out of here. And we have to decide what to do with Axe. He can't exactly just go walking around town with us. I think you should come to my farm, I said. It's not so different from the dome ship. Fields, meadows, woods, and it extends all the way to the National Forest land. He'd have to be careful, but it's the only place we have to hide him. That still doesn't deal with how we're going to get him there, Marco pointed out. It's a long walk. People are going to notice a big blue deer with extra eyes and a scorpion tail. I must morph, Axe said. Yeah, but into what? Rachel wondered. Then, to my surprise, Axe walked over to me. He placed one delicate, many-fingered hand on my face. With your permission, he said. I felt myself getting spacey. Not sleepy exactly, but sort of like I was in a trance. I realized what he was doing. He was acquiring me. He was absorbing my DNA. Excuse me, but you're going to morph Cassie? Marco asked. Can you do that? Axe went to Marco and touched his face. One by one, Axe acquired each of us. And then he began to morph. I've seen a lot of strange morphings, but nothing was ever quite like this. Axe wasn't becoming an animal. He was becoming a human being. But a human being we all knew in some ways. A melding of the 4 human Animorphs. His front legs began to shrivel away. His back legs thickened and strengthened. Suddenly, a mouth appeared in his Andalite face. The scorpion tail shrank and disappeared. He reared up and stood erect. I think we better give Axe some privacy, I suggested. Think we better give Axe some privacy, I suggested. Is he going to be a boy or a girl, though? Marco wondered. Either way, let's just turn our heads, I said. We did, probably just in time. Hey, Axe. Hey, Axe. In the pile of clothes, there's an extra pair of boxers and a t-shirt, Jake said. Put them on, okay? A few minutes later, we turned around. We all stared. Axe had the t-shirt pulled up like a baggy pair of shorts. The boxers were on his head. Oh, okay, Jake said. A few small adjustments needed, Axe. Are you male or female? Sorry. A few small adjustments needed. Axe, are you male or female? I chose to be male. He stopped suddenly, his eyes wide. He was surprised by his own mouth. It was not something Andalites understood. I chose to be male because I am male. Word. Male. Is that a good choice? Choice. Choice. He twisted his lips around and stuck out his tongue. Strange, he said. Male is fine, Jake said. Rachel, Cassie, you turn around. Marco and I will help Axe adjust his clothing. When I looked again, Axe was dressed normally. But he did not look normal. But he did not look normal. He was of medium height, a perfect balance between Rachel the tallest and Marco the shortest. He was of medium build, somewhere between Jake and Marco. His hair was brown with just a little of Rachel's gold and a little of my curl. Oh, pardon me, a second. His hair was brown with just a little of Rachel's gold and a little of my curl. His skin was the color of light brown sugar. A blending of my brown and Marco's olive and Jake and Rachel's pale white. He was human, and yet, somehow, strange. He jerked his head this way and that. How do you look? How do you look around? Behind. I grinned. It was exactly like every time I first morphed a new animal. He was getting used to his new body, or at least trying to. As I watched him play with his lips and try out new sounds, he suddenly tumbled forward. Jake grabbed him and held him. "You only have 2 legs now, Axe," he said. "Yes, 2. Ooh, very shaky." "Yeah, we're a shaky species," Marco said. "Well, let's get out of here," Jake said. "Axe," I said, "don't talk to any strangers on the way home, okay?" Chapter 25. It was a couple of days later, after we had recovered, after I had made sure that Axe was safe in the far fields of our farm, away from curious eyes. I waited until dark and changed again into the seagull morph. I flew out of my barn and through the night to the gardens. It was closed and empty, aside from a few scattered security guards. They would have stopped me if I had tried to enter normally, but no one was looking out for seagulls. I landed near the dolphin tank and became human again. It, there were no lights on and just a sliver of moon, but I could hear the dolphins swimming. One came over to me, curious about why a human would be hanging around at night. "Hi," I said. "Sorry, I don't have any food for you." Then I climbed up on the side of the tank. I let myself go, slipping into the cool water. 3 of the dolphins came over to take a look. This was definitely something unusual. Some strange human was getting in the pool with them. This was a new game. I began to morph. This definitely got their attention. All 6 dolphins swam around, looking up at me, sideways at me, back at me as they passed, and slowly I became one of them. It was a dumb thing to do, really. I knew it was dumb, but it felt like something I had to do. I wanted to show them what I had done. I wanted their permission to become one of them. I wanted to find some way to tell them everything. But once I was in that dolphin body again, it was hard to remember all of my solemn worries. It was hard to remember why I had come. Hard to remember fear and worry and guilt. One of them came over, gave me a nudge, then shot toward the surface. She exploded into the air and fell back. She exploded into the air and fell back, as silent and smooth as an arrow. They were asking me to play. They were asking me to dance with them. And so I did. The end. All right, so that actually was the full hour, and there was a bit more left of that book than I had realized. But that is the end of Animorphs number 4, The Message. I hope you have enjoyed it, and hey, thank you so much for coming to hang out with me. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Tina. Well, happy Hanukkah, and I think Merry Christmas. No, I will see you once between today and Christmas Day, if you're available. And hopefully you do have some time away from work over the holiday season to enjoy. So yeah, I will hope to see you once more next week. Take care.